This is just a photo of the guys in the Rangers uniform when they went in 78, 79. And that was an exciting year, the year when they left.
Yeah. Winnipeg's hockey and legal communities lost a legend when Don Baizley succumbed to cancer Thursday morning. The 71-year-old was instrumental in bringing Ulf Nilsson, Anders Hedberg, and Lars-Erik Sjöberg to Winnipeg in 1974. The three Swedes, along with Bobby Hull, formed the cornerstones of the WHA Winnipeg Jets. And it could easily be argued, without their play and Baizley's work behind the scenes, that Winnipeg may never have entered the NHL in 1979 or re-entered the league 2 years ago. Over the years, he remained committed to Winnipeg, where he served other high-profile clients, such as Teemu Selanne, Paul Kariya, and the Koivu brothers. Last fall, Baizley sat down with the Winnipeg Free Press to discuss the hotline.
Bill Robinson paid attention to the fact that in 73-74, the Leafs brought over Börje Salming and Inge Hammarström. And at that point in time, Jerry Wilson, who's passed away in March of 11, but he had taken his family to Sweden to do research in sports physiology, particularly blood doping, at a physical education school in Stockholm. Jerry told me about his, I call it epiphany, I don't think he used that word, but he had watched the Swedish national team was playing a game in November against the Russian national team, and they had Harlamov on that team. And he said, I can recall a play where Hedberg was taking the puck behind his own net and turning up the ice with it, and Harlamov was chasing him. And by the time they got to center ice, Hedberg had him by a stride and a half, and he was carrying the puck. And sort of when the light went on in Jerry's head, it's like, these guys can play, you know. And Bill Robinson then jumped on a plane and went over and looked at these guys. He liked what he saw there. Then he asked Anders, well, if you're going to go, you should go with somebody else. Who would we take? And Anders chose a player by the name of Ulf Nilsson, who didn't play on the same team as him. They played against each other. Bill Robinson, to his credit, looked at him and said, let's sign them both. Anders said, well, if I'm going to North America, I think I should use a lawyer in North America. Jerry said, well, I've got a friend in Winnipeg that acts from some players, and I acted for maybe 5 or 6 players at that point, Jeff. I was not, I mean, it wasn't in this in any kind of significant way. I met with these guys. They said, will you represent us? I flew to Toronto on the way back from Helsinki, and I met with the Leafs, and Punch Himlock drove up from Buffalo, and they made offers to these players, and then I came on to Winnipeg, and Winnipeg made their offers, and actually Toronto outbid Winnipeg for Hedberg, and Anders.
But when Buffalo owned Nilsson.
And Buffalo owned Nilsson at that point in time, so Anders decided that with Bobby Hull was a big carrot, and the fact that then there was going to be these 2 other Swedes with them, and there was a 4th in the end. They brought Kurt Larson as a backup goalie, but so they wound up signing in Winnipeg. That was my involvement emerged through all of that. The first year the team missed the playoffs. They were good from the beginning, but the team did miss the playoffs. Instead of cutting back on Europeans, they got 4 more in. They got so they had 10 the following year, and that's when they went on the run. They won the championship that next year. They lost in the 7th game to Quebec the next year. They won the championship again the following 2 years. So in the ensuing 4 years, although Hedberg and Nilsson were only there for 3 of those 4, they were there here 4 years, but the first year they missed the playoffs. In their 3 or 4 years, they won the championship twice, and lost in the 7th game in Quebec City in the other. So it was during that period that it became apparent, like, these guys were really good players, but they earned the respect the hard way because they had to play through a lot. And I say regularly when I go back to Scandinavia now that there's a real debt owed to these guys who were the pioneers and came over and had to take particularly on-ice stuff that they were having to put up with. Bobby Hull has to get a lot of credit for he was this huge star at that time. And these 2 guys came in to play on the line with him, and he said to them, you play how you play, and I'll fit in. And that looking back on it, especially with experience in subsequent Europeans coming over, that's not the usual treatment from the marquee player on the team. The guys say, look, this is how I play. You make this is how I'd like you to play. Whereas Bobby embraced their style of play right from the beginning, and he encouraged them every step of the way. So he was a tremendous asset in that respect.